I think one of the earlier groups, one of the people we spoke to was in the group, and he goes, and I said something like, and there's no free will, blah, blah. And so he went, what? No free will? Yeah, sure. There's got to be free will, because otherwise, what will happen if I don't do it? Nothing will happen. And I said, nothing. You haven't been doing it up until this moment either. You think you have, but it's actually just been life doing everything now, up until now. So it will continue. The only thing that may change is the identification that causes stress and turbulence and suffering in this experience of being a separate, like an individual human being, I suppose that might diminish. So actually life then flows with less turbulent, wasted energy. Life flows actually more naturally. Life actually flows as its most open impulse is. But you know what? If it doesn't, and there's a contraction that causes suffering, supposed, it's just experiencing itself. This is the same thing. There is life, there is the experience of being a separate human being, and everything is the one thing interacting. Yet I'm careful to sort of tell people there's nothing you can do, because it can actually create that chasm that's too far to jump across. And so therefore the separate self pulls back and goes, I think you were saying something about that before, Anastasia, that I don't want to be put off. It can put the separate self off and just stay. But if there's an impulse and a drive and a momentum for this to be exploring itself, I guess the process is already doing what it's doing. There's some reason that this is unfolding, and I didn't decide to do this. Life has unfolded this way. Like, I had no idea what we're going to talk about today. Never do. Just sit there and just go, and it starts, and whatever comes up. But talking seems to happen for an hour and a half, just as a game, as a story. It's a fun, it's a beautiful exploration. Human beings, we've got these beautiful creative brains as these entities that we call a separate I. We've got these beautiful creative brains that can make stories, and there's intelligence, and it's just interacting with the real intelligence. Like, this is just a little interaction of the infinite intelligence that this is all part of. But we can make stories up about how I did this and how I thought that. And if I'm just going to make a little story up now, okay, which is basically a story coming out of this brain. So it's not reality. Nothing that comes out of this mouth will be actually what is real. It'll just be an interpretation put through a body and put into words according to John. It's all coming out of a body. Any word that is made is separation. It almost reinforces the concept of separation. A word is a communication between supposedly two separate human beings. So it almost reinforces it every time. This is actually reinforcing separation as well. Having a conversation and talking about how to do stuff and how not to do stuff. It's all kind of silly. But there's a resonance that can happen in between this, where life just seems to go, okay, I know less now, so therefore I'm not as separate. There's just this happening, because that's actually what's happening. There's just this happening.